Welcome to MTN Outdoors.
Hi there, I'm John Riley, and I'll be your guide for this week's episode of MTN Outdoors. Now, often when we're talking about bear attacks in Montana, we're talking about grizzly bears. But that doesn't mean that black bears aren't also dangerous. Recently, a black bear was killed near Red Lodge after attacking a 3-year-old girl who was tent camping with her family, as MTN's Alina Howder reports.
That bear attack happened just miles away from here at Basin Campground, and it has campers here on high alert. There's nothing quite like the peacefulness of the Montana wilderness.
It's just beautiful country.
But on Sunday night, this private campground just south of Red Lodge was anything but peaceful, as a 3-year-old girl was attacked by a black bear while sleeping inside her family's tent.
I can't imagine what that is, how terrifying that'd be as a parent.
Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks is releasing very few details about the girl or her condition, but says it happened at about 9:45.
She's being treated in the hospital in Billings. She went to the hospital in Red Lodge first and then sent over to Billings afterwards.
Perry's RV park and campground is now empty as wildlife officials try and trap the black bear.
They're evacuating everyone out of the area. They need that area to be secure in order to really amp up their capturing efforts.
While it's still unknown why the bear attacked the tent, Webb says the bear was likely lured to the campsite because of attractants.
There are campfires, if the food's out and about and everything like that, it's a tendency to draw some wild animals in.
It's something Billings couple Lisa and Don Wilcox know all too well.
Tents are very vulnerable. We used to sleep in a tent all the time, and we kind of graduated from that to this trailer here.
Which is why it's so important to be bear aware.
We've got about 2 or 3 cans of bear spray that we bring with us, and we like to hike around this area, so we carry that with us when we hike.
A lesson Eric Baness from North Dakota learned this Monday.
Actually, we're running into town tonight and we're hiking tomorrow, so I'm probably going to pick up some better defense strategies.
In Red Lodge, Alina Howder, MTN News.
Montana's wildlife is in full swing right now. Spring babies are out and about, and those late-born youngsters are getting their first taste of the real world. That's where we come in and should immediately back away.
You know, recreating in a place like this fishing access site here, there's a chance you might come upon young wildlife that was born maybe a few days previously. So a few things to keep in mind so that we can ensure the best chance of survival for those animals is to keep your distance. Enjoy viewing wildlife from a distance. If that animal's responding to your presence potentially, then you're too close.
One of the most popular rescue animals is deer. People find a fawn alone in the bushes. They assume it's abandoned. Reality is it was most likely left there as protection until mom could return. You taking it away destroys all that protection.
We don't have the ability to rehabilitate deer. Oftentimes what happens is if people bring us a fawn that they've found, we will just tell them go put it back where they found it, because that you're taking that animal out of its wild habitat, out of its element, and that can be a step that's detrimental to wildlife.
FWP has a simple way to remember all this. If you care, leave them there.
Just leaving them in their habitat gives them the best chance at survival, and oftentimes they do just fine. Even if they are orphaned, it's they're in their home, so leaving them there gives them the best chance.
Jacobson also notes that if you come up on an animal you think might be sick, instead of trying to pick it up, he suggests you contact Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. That way they can check on it. Again, wildlife's best chance of survival is here in the wild. In Highlight Canyon, Chet Lehman, MTN News.
Horses and mules have been used in the backcountry since the Forest Service started managing these wildlands. That's how they've got crews in and out. They're a really important part of the job of maintaining public access to our lands.
The Bob Marshall Wilderness encompasses an astounding 1.6 million acres of remote wilderness. A portion of maintaining this land is done by the Bob Marshall Wilderness Foundation.
So we provide stewardship opportunities for folks who want to go into the backcountry and volunteer, be a part of a group, and give back to this incredible resource. Do a fair amount of trail clearing, a fair amount of fixing the tread, a lot of brushing back encroaching vegetation. We also do campsite restoration and a lot of invasive species mitigation.
But none of this incredibly important work could be done without packers and their mules.
They would not be able to do their voluntary trail projects without having pack support, because we carry their food, all their tools, their kitchen supplies. So without the pack support, whether it's mules or horses, the foundation wouldn't be able to get a lot of the work done back there, because we're talking some very remote areas and long distances.
Vitale and his crew of mules will walk about 700 to 800 miles a summer through the Bob, carrying tools and equipment for crews to maintain the wilderness area, often spending days, if not weeks, in the backcountry.
There's so many memories and so many good experiences. I wouldn't know where to begin. We'd have to sit around a campfire and have just bring back a lot of memories. It's been all really good, and I'm still alive to talk about it.
Master packers are not only in charge of the mules and packing gear, they also have to train the newer generation of packers through an apprenticeship program.
It's incredible. It's kind of like the best thing I think I've ever done. There's so much history to packing, and especially packing in the Bob, and to be a part of that has just been such a cool experience. The way the foundation has this program set up, I get to pack with all of these different packers, so getting that like years and years and years of experience all in 2 summers has been like just incredible.
Because of the packers and their mules, the Bob Marshall Wilderness remains a pristine wilderness for all to enjoy.
It's a place to seek solitude. It's a place to be away from the trappings of civilization and just kind of enjoy being out in nature.
In Whitefish, Kiana Wilson, MTN News.
Just after lunch, residents at this assisted living home make their way to a bus and up the steps. One by one, they make the challenging climb. But so many have chosen to go on this trip, they have to bring an extra car. And this is why. Hands that are not young feed hearts that are, with a touch of creatures large and small. While Hoofbeats often brings horses, ponies, cats, and dogs to Cody and Powell's senior living centers, fundraisers and grants pay for the visits. But on this day, the seniors jumped at the chance to come out to the farm. Why? The magic of touch is the answer. We asked co-founders Heather Bales and Jody Goldbach why they decided to do this. Bales explained,
because of that, it fills our buckets, it fills their buckets. Our mission is to connect as many people as possible to horses, because we know the therapeutic power of horses, but we have the goats and we have the cats and we have the dogs and the bunnies and everything, and we know just how incredibly amazing this is for them.
Goldbach pointed out their equine-assisted therapy is designed to help young people with emotional issues, and it does, but
the elderly things are just as important.
These women know the connection of giving love and getting it back is rare and precious.
I love going, and I know they love seeing us come. Yeah, I think it's definitely quality of life for them.
It's been years since I've had this chance to pet a little kitten like this, you know.
From Cody.
Oh, I love it.
Penny Preston.
She's so soft.
For MTN News.
Yeah.
Coming up after the break, we see how a Montana teen is honoring wildland firefighters. But first, it's time for some trivia. The Lewis and Clark expedition documented numerous grand sights on their journey. But do you know the name of the feature Captain Lewis called, quote, the most remarkable cliffs we've seen yet? That answer coming up after the break.
We now return to MTN Outdoors.
Welcome back. So do you know the name of the Montana geographical feature Lewis and Clark described as, quote, the most remarkable cliffs that we've seen yet? Initially proposed as a national park, but later designated a U.S. wilderness area, those who have boated on Holter Lake are likely familiar with the Gates of the Mountains. This year marks the 75th anniversary of the Man Gulch Fire, which happened right at the Gates of the Mountains and claimed the lives of 13 firefighters. In 2017, a 9-year-old boy began researching the Man Gulch Fire and the smoke jumpers, inspired by his own mother, who was working long hours as a wildland firefighter. From that research, he started the 1 Foot in the Black project, which aims to educate and preserve the monuments of those fallen firefighters. MTN's Ali Kaiser reports.
A 16-year-old boy from Townsend was so inspired by the history of the Man Gulch fire and smoke jumpers that he decided to start a project to preserve its history.
Bringing awareness to it because of the impact it had entirely on fire and what we use now in fire.
When Cole Bernard was 9 years old, he researched the Man Gulch fire and smoke jumpers for a class project and did the work on this pizza box.
I think it was Papa John's. Yeah, Papa John's.
Wildland firefighting runs in Bernard's family. One grandfather was an aviation mechanic, the other a firefighter. His grandmother an EMT, and his mom has been a wildland firefighter since 1997.
I've been around the emergency services my whole life.
After reading Young Men and Fire by Norman MacLean, watching the movie Red Skies of Montana, and committing endless hours to research, Bernard's passion for his project, One Foot in the Black, grew. He started a Facebook page with his mom where they fundraised for new crosses to be put in at the site of Man Gulch. But Bernard's work preserving the monument does not end there.
Getting a better trail, like the trail itself is going to be miserable. It's a terrible terrain, but just like maybe a little better pavement, a little more signage, because they have like a little pizza box sized sign out there.
One Foot in the Black has raised money to have the names of the Man Gulch smoke jumpers added to the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial in Maryland. Bernard says that without the sacrifices of the men who died 75 years ago, his mom would not be as safe fighting fires as she is today.
New equipment, new strategies, different way to communicate, what they wear, basically shaped fire to where it is today.
So far, One Foot in the Black has raised over $5,000, and Bernard's family has given roughly $15,000 to the cause. Bernard says the best way to stay up to date and support One Foot in the Black is through their Facebook page. A link for that will be featured in this story on our website. In Helena, I'm Ali Kaiser, MTN News.
Most children who grow up in Helena learn about the Man Gulch fire. It's a story of tragedy, but also of courage, and one that's now memorialized in central Helena.
I love getting these lines nice and crisp too. It's just like so satisfying.
Elise Perpignano has been working on the mural at the Lindell Avenue Tunnel for several months now, honoring Man Gulch, our wildland firefighters, and showing how the land recovers after fire.
Kiara at the Forest Service reached out to me and asked if I'd have any interest kind of creating some imagery around the events at Man Gulch. And I just knew I had to.
Her favorite part of the project? The people and dogs stopping by to chat.
Previous smoke jumpers who stopped by and shared their stories, and just like even the kiddos that come through and they're just like, wow, like just baffled. It's really cool seeing the community react in this way.
A Helena native, Perpignano grew up seeing the impacts of wildfire and how dangerous wildland firefighting can be. While the mural was being painted, 20 miles away, the firefighting community experienced tragedy again.
New details tonight on a deadly crash involving a wildland firefighting plane. Lewis and Clark County Sheriff Leo Dutton says the pilot.
A memorial was added, honoring the pilot and the sacrifice she made. Perpignano told me she is honored to be able to memorialize the brave firefighters and help memories of those lost live on.
Never thought I would be making this scale of work that's like so important to so many people. And I think it feels kind of like a big responsibility almost too, because I need to do it in a very like meaningful and thoughtful way. Which I'm hoping people can pick up on that.
Time is relentless, and the further we get away from an event, the harder it can be to remember it. But thanks to Perpignano, people walking through the Lindell Avenue Tunnel will be reminded of the Man Gulch fire, the 13 souls that were lost, the lessons learned, and a path forward.
Fishing is a way of life here in Montana, and with these changing weather conditions, how is the fishing on the Missouri?
Yeah, overall this year the fishing's been super solid. We've had our lulls in there mainly either between hatches or the heat. Otherwise, it's been a pretty good year. Our population is amazingly high for as many people that fish out here.
I spoke with a local here in Craig, and he gave me the insight on what the fish are biting on.
The nymph bite is what a lot of us are using, so kind of the zertle and a dropper off of that has been a good combo right now. That's hard to keep those flies in stock. Once people find out how to fish that bug, it's kind of this crazy phenomenon, and they start flying out of the bins.
If you're fishing for rainbows or browns, you're sure to enjoy your time on the Missouri. In Craig, I'm Paul Sanchez for MTN News.
Coming up after the break, we learn more about Montana's trust lands.
We now return to MTN Outdoors.
Welcome back. Now, you've probably heard it's an election year. And this year, Montanans will be electing 5 executive officials who will comprise the State Land Board. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian breaks down what the Land Board does and how they manage state trust lands across Montana.
This trail that I'm on outside of Bozeman may look like any other across Montana, but it's on a very particular class of public lands that are managed in a very specific way.
We have the absolute privilege of having these lands, especially close to an urban center like Bozeman, and taking care of them is absolutely our highest priority.
Kara Heiser is the Bozeman Unit Manager for the Montana Department of Natural Resources and Conservation. In that role, she oversees state trust lands in this area. That includes about 6,200 acres in the Bear Canyon block. Like many trust lands, it's managed for multiple uses. There's currently a logging project going on, it's leased for livestock grazing, and especially in recent years, there's been growing recreational use.
It's really pretty glorious area, and I know that people really like to be out here.
Altogether, there are more than 5 million acres of state trust land across Montana. The responsibility for managing them belongs to the Montana Land Board. The Governor, Secretary of State, Attorney General, State Auditor, and Superintendent of Public Instruction. Trust lands were first set aside when Montana became a state to provide support for schools, and to this day, they're managed with that goal in mind.
Somewhat of a unique management challenge to think that our time horizon isn't just the next 10 or 25 years, it's in perpetuity.
DNRC describes trust lands as working lands. They bring in more than $50 million a year in revenues for schools and other state institutions. Much of it comes from things like timber permits and grazing and mineral leases, but other uses are increasing too. Most trust lands are open for non-motorized, low-impact recreation.
With a conservation license, recreational users can come to trust lands to do general dispersed recreational activities like hunting, hiking, wildlife viewing, bike riding.
Leaders say with growing interest, there are concerns like littering and conflicts with primary users. They're asking everyone to recreate responsibly.
We're definitely interested in educating more of the public so that they have that better understanding and can take that responsibility personally and seriously in tending to that trust land in the state and making sure that it's available for future generations.
DNRC has put together a full guide on the rules for recreational use on trust lands. You can find a link to that guide on our website. In Bozeman, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
There's no doubt about it, Montana is known for its hunting and fishing opportunities, but let's don't forget trapping tradition is what brought the first visitors up this river, the Missouri, to Montana. Many still participate. Now there's a 2-part requirement for trapping training in Montana: completion of an online course and then completion of a field day. These are for anyone who wants to start trapping or who hasn't been a licensed trapper 3 times.
Those years don't need to be consecutive or anything, but if you've purchased that license for at least 3 times, then you're good to go.
Region 3's field day is in Livingston on August 23rd. Volunteer experienced trappers spend the day going over all that you need to know to be an ethical Montana trapper.
So we cover things like how to take care of your equipment, what are the rules and regulations for trapping and how to be successful in that, how to make ethical decisions and take responsibility when you're in the field so that you don't cause problems for other recreationists. And then how to handle that critter once you're able to harvest it.
The online course is required before you can take the field day, but you must complete both before you can trap this winter.
Once you complete that course, You'll be given a certificate of having completed the online portion. You'll then use that certificate to register online for the field day, which is August 23rd.
Jacobson notes that field day is directed by some of the most experienced trappers in the entire state, making it a great way to learn from the very best. Visit the FWP website, click on the Education tab for more information. On the mighty Missouri River, Chet Lehman, MTN News.
Swimming, biking, and running are great forms of exercise, but imagine doing one right after the other. That's a challenge one Central High student, Sarah Speeney, has not only accepted, but is excelling at. With a 4.0 GPA, Central High student Sarah Speeney has her hands full.
Junior year, I'm taking AP Language, AP Chemistry, dual credit US History, Human Anatomy, Band, Religion.
Not that unusual for a 16-year-old. But pair it with her hobby.
I've done some biking, done some swimming, I like to run, and I was like, why not put all three together?
And it becomes an impressive juggling act. Especially since she trains on her own.
I'm in the pool 4 times a week. I'm biking and running alternating days. I try to get in twice, do 2 things a day.
In addition to working as a lifeguard,
All right, kid. Good job. Good luck.
Sarah wakes up at dawn nearly every day to train, and it's paid off.
And in first place, Sarah.
My last 2, I won my age group and then won the overall women's division. That's been super, super exciting, and I was the Montana state champion this year for the high school division, so that was super cool.
Even qualifying for nationals at her last triathlon.
Home stretch, home stretch.
I think she's only going to get better and better as she gets older.
As someone who's been competing in triathlons for the past decade, Sarah's mentor, Jen Robertus, knows it's not an easy sport.
Because it's not always just one workout a day. It can be time consuming depending on how much she wants to race and which distance she wants to race.
Something Sarah couldn't do without her family's support.
My mom's been a nurse for 30 years. My dad's been in fire for several years, and they have always instilled such a hard work ethic in me because hard work is what gets you places.
And with another competition in Powell just weeks away, Sarah knows her hard work will pay off.
I think, hard work and a good attitude can take you great places, so whatever happens, happens, and I'm excited for what the future's going to bring.
In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.
Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of MTN Outdoors. Thank you so much for joining us, and stay safe out there. We'll catch you later.